Welcome to the Man of Recaps. This is The Handmaid's Tale, full series recap before the final season. Now, the show features incredibly disturbing content, but I'm not going to show any or go into too much detail so you can get the story without living through the trauma. Welcome to Gilead, the rebranded name for a near-future America that has descended into a Christian-themed dystopian nightmare. Women, in particular, are the most oppressed group who have lost all personal freedom. Apparently this all started when the world faced a crisis of infertility, so the fertile women in Gilead have been rounded up and put in the red robes as handmaids. This Handmaid's Tale is the story of June, who we meet in Season 1 as Offred, which is of Fred because she's the property of her commander, Fred Waterford. He and his wife Serena, being unable to get pregnant, it's their handmaid's job to bear children for them, and so June is forced to take part in the ceremony, a government-mandated, God-approved rape. Handmaids do get to leave the house for their daily walks to the grocery store, but they can't even trust each other. Any of them could be true believers that are reporting to the secret police, the Eyes. And so their conversations are nothing but these pious platitudes, blessed be the fruit, praise be. But one day, June and her walking partner Emily decide they can trust each other. In fact, Emily's like, hey, I'm with the resistance, Mayday. Your commander, Fred Waterford's real high up there. See if you can start spying on him. And soon an opportunity presents itself when he invites her in to play Scrabble. This is super illegal because women aren't allowed to read, but the rules don't apply to commanders. So things are looking up. June's made contact with the resistance and now has a mission, but the very next day, Emily's been replaced. They didn't find out she's with the resistance, just that she's gay, which is very illegal in Gilead, and Emily's disappeared. But June continues her Scrabble games with Fred. He starts opening up to her. In fact, he almost seems like a nice guy, until it becomes apparent that being nice to her is just a sick power trip for him, and he's a disgusting pig. Soon he gets bored of Scrabble and takes her out on the town to the brothel Jezebel's. But this is good news for the resistance, who has a package there June can pick up, so she has to pretend to be into Fred so he'll take her back. And more good news, working at Jezebel's is Moira, June's best friend from before the fall. So with Moira's help, June gets the package out, but it's not a bomb or anything. It's a stack of letters written by women all over Gilead telling the truth of how bad it is here. And as for Moira, she decides it's time to escape and makes it to the safety of Canada. Now let's meet Mrs. Waterford, Fred's wife Serena, who sometimes is very nice to June, but other times is incredibly cruel. Now back at the start of the Gilead movement, the Waterfords were a team. In fact, Serena was the rock star, until the movement shifted to be more about oppressing women, and Serena found herself no longer part of the decision-making. And now in the world she helped create, the book she wrote in support of Gilead, it's illegal for her to read. More than anything, though, she really wants a baby, and when June doesn't get pregnant, she finally admits it might be Fred's fault. So she has a secret, very illegal plan to make June try with another man, and she has in mind their driver, Nick, who's a generally nice guy. And June and Nick can't say no here. Serena has all the power over them, so they go through with it. But later, June sneaks down there like, hey boy, I'm ready to take my sexual autonomy back. Let's do it because we want to. And so June and Nick get it on with some passionate, consensual sex. Now, like most drivers, Nick does in fact report to the Eyes, but he's no true believer. He's just doing what he has to do to survive, and he and June truly fall in love. But by the way, June had a family before Gilead, her husband Luke and daughter Hannah. During their escape, June got caught, but Luke did make it out to Canada, and we check on him once in a while. But tragically, their daughter Hannah was also captured. She's been placed with another family, and June is never allowed to see her again. But now Serena's plan worked, and June is pregnant. When a handmaid has a baby, she gives it up to the host family and is immediately reassigned. Now handmaids are trained and overseen by the aunts, and the leader here is Aunt Lydia, a real nasty person who's a Gilead true believer. This one woman, Janine, wouldn't submit, so Aunt Lydia punished her severely by taking her eye, and it kinda broke her. Now Janine's taking her baby back and threatens to jump off the bridge with it. June thinks she talked her down, but no, she just handed the baby over, and now she jumps! Janine survives the fall, but now she's gonna be executed by having the other handmaids stone her to death. But June's like, no way, not one of our own, so she drops the rock, sorry Aunt Lydia, and all the other handmaids join in. Yeah, they're standing up for each other. And so season 1 ends with a moment of empowerment as handmaids are sticking together. But as season 2 begins, the punishment is severe. It's like, hey, you thought your life was bad before, we can make it even worse. Later, Nick's able to arrange a meeting between June and her daughter Hannah. Yeah, mother-daughter reunited, although briefly. But just then, Nick's called away and June finds herself unsupervised near the Canadian border. Yes, it's time to escape, but oh no, what's this? The baby's coming right now, and June gives birth by herself, a beautiful baby girl. She can't trek through the snow with a newborn, so June comes back, one of the many times June almost escapes. Now, Commander Waterford's big project is building a fancy new red center, but one of the handmaids doesn't like that, smuggles in a bomb, and blows that place up. Unfortunately, Fred survived, but he's out of commission for a while. But this is bad news, because in Gilead, a commander can go from top dog to executed for treason real quick and bring his whole house down with him. So Serena says he's still working from the hospital, but really she's doing the work and forging his signatures. She brings in June to help because she was an editor, and so for a while, the women are running the show. But when Fred gets back, instead of thanking his wife for covering for him, he's real mad and decides to punish her. So Serena's had enough. She gathers up a bunch of commanders' wives like, hey, we're loyal to Gilead, but we deserve to be treated a little bit better. And so in a bold act, she pulls out a Bible and reads a passage. But the men of the council were not moved by her bravery, and in fact they punish her according to the law and cut off her pinky. Serena has often been June's greatest enemy, but now June hopes she can find an ally in her. Now by the way, we know about handmaids, but infertile women of low status work as domestic servants called Marthas. One night there's a fire down the street and the Waterford's Martha, Rita, is like, hey June, this is a distraction, we're getting you and the baby out. Unfortunately, Serena catches her, but June's like, hey, you just saw how awful Gilead is, you can't possibly want to raise a daughter in this place. And Serena's just in the right mindset to agree. She lets baby Nicole go. So the Martha network helps June escape. It's like, wait here, there's a truck to Canada coming. But first we gotta go check in on the colonies. Yeah, the colonies are a threat of where you can be banished to. Apparently some part of America got nuked and people are sent here to clean it up and die. And one of the women banished here was June's first friend, Emily. But in the explosion at the Red Center, a lot of handmaids died, so they need replacements. Congrats, Emily, you're a sex slave again. But her new commander is Joseph Lawrence, who's a grumpy professor type, and he's like, look, we don't do the ceremony here. This house is actually kind of chill. Aunt Lydia, though, is not chill, so one day Emily grabs a knife and stabs her. Yeah, knocks her down the stairs. But Aunt Lydia survived. She's a tough old bird, and her brush with death did not make her any nicer. If anything, she's worse than ever. Commander Lawrence is going to help her escape, so as June's waiting for the Canada truck, now her friend Emily's coming with. But at the last minute, June decides she's staying behind. What? June, no! Yes, her daughter Hannah is still in Gilead though, and June's decided she's not leaving without her. And this is as good a time as any to make fun of the fact that 90% of the show is June dramatically staring at the camera. In Season 3, this Commander Lawrence pulls some strings to get June transferred to his house. He's known as the Architect of Gilead because he was a key figure in the revolution and is in charge of economics and stuff. But he's not a religious fanatic and doesn't support oppressing women, so he doesn't do the ceremony, and he doesn't care what you get up to as long as it doesn't cause him trouble. So June now has a lot more freedom to talk to the Marthas about resistance stuff. Things are looking up. Now there's bad blood between the Waterfords. Serena's still mad at Fred for not fighting for her when they cut off her pinky. But when Serena sees a video of baby Nicole in Canada, she regrets her decision to let her go. She wants her back. So they start a propaganda campaign asking Canada to return her to her home. They travel to the capital of Gilead, old Washington, D.C., with the Washington Monument turned into a big cross. And so working on this with Commander Waterford is High Commander Winslow. He's a real top dog. And he's living the Gilead dream. He's got like a dozen kids by a dozen different handmaids. But they treat handmaids even worse here in the capital. They've decided there's no reason for them to talk. This makes June try to reason with Serena, like, hey, you can't possibly want to raise a daughter in this place. But Serena's baby crazy. She's like, yeah, I kinda do though. These two have a big fight in front of the destroyed Lincoln Memorial. June's hoping Serena would be an ally for her, but that ain't gonna happen. So with their husband Fred fighting so hard to get their baby back, things get better between them. They make up. But he's lying to her. They've decided to keep baby Nicole over there because it gives them a lot of political leverage. Now newly stationed in the capital is driver Nick, who's been promoted to a commander himself. He and June are briefly reunited, but he can't really use his newfound powers to help. They're shipping him off to the front of Chicago to brutally quash the rebellion there. Yeah, he's just in too deep. So back in the Boston area, a friend tells June where her daughter Hannah goes to school. But with children so rare and valuable, schools are heavily guarded. June can't even see her, just hears her across the wall. To avoid future incidents, they now transferred Hannah far away. Even Commander Lawrence doesn't have the files. But this ordeal's made June realize that she was being selfish, thinking only of her own daughter. All the handmaids have kids around the area, and June's got a new mission. She wants to get them all out. So they put it out through the Martha network to see how many are interested in helping smuggle kids. If they send muffins, it means yes, and we got 52 muffins. Luckily, the Resistance has a plane coming in to deliver supplies, so June's got to go back to the brothel Jezebels to convince the bartender who's running the plane to load it up with kids before he sends it back out. But she's recognized by Commander Winslow, and there's no way she's getting out of this without having sex with him. But no, she decides to fight back this time, grabs a pen and stabs him with it, then boom, kills this guy. And luckily, the next day there's a bigger news story that overshadows his disappearance. Serena finally realized Fred was intentionally keeping Nicole over there for political reasons, so she's been talking to the American CIA to backchannel a deal to give up Fred in exchange she can live in Canada, have visitation with baby Nicole. Now Mrs. Lawrence is a reclusive shut-in. She has high anxiety because her husband helped her country descend into a dystopian nightmare. Things are fine at least in their own home, but now they get some visitors on ceremony night. Yeah, the higher-ups think it's suspicious. None of Commander Lawrence's handmaids have ever gotten pregnant. They're here to watch, ensure he does the ceremony. And so we thought June's days of being ritualistically raped were over, but it's happening again. He's like, yo, I'm so sorry about this, but she's like, hey, you made this world, now you gotta live in it. This pushes his wife over the edge. She takes too many meds, tries to kill herself. June runs to go get help, but wait. If they call an ambulance, that'll bring more attention on this house than ever, and Operation Children Escape is only a week away. And so June has her Walter White Breaking Bad moment. She leaves the room and pretends she didn't see anything. And so finally, the big day is here, and under the cover of night, the Martha Martha's bring the kids under their charge to the house. And so they journey through the woods, make it to the airport, but no, why is there security here? June's like, hey, I'll distract them, you take the kids around the other side. But Janine's like, nah girl, handmaids stick together, and all the women are throwing rocks to distract him, and the plane flies away. The plan worked. Over 50 children safely in Canada. Luke gets the bad news that his wife June is not on the plane, but the bittersweet news that she organized this whole thing. She's a hero. But now this group of about a dozen handmaids are extremely wanted, on their run, but they make it to the safe house. It's a country estate in the middle of nowhere, so not many visitors. Commander Keyes has gone senile. He has no idea what's happening, so it's his young wife, Mrs. Keyes, who's happy to host some resistance heroes. And you might think a commander's wife has had it better than the handmaids, but she has not. She's also been raped by her husband and all the guards in the area. Pretty soon, June sneaks over to a nearby estate to meet with their Mayday contact. The fugitive handmaids can't stay in any one place for too long, so she's got another safe house lined up for them. But in the meantime, this house is a giant party brothel for high-ranking military commanders. June's like, yo, while we got them all here, we should kill him. Mrs. Keyes, being a country girl, knows which berries are poisonous, puts it in the liquor at the party house. Yeah, drink up, commanders. Yeah, June, just winning all over the place. Until back at the house, oh, what? No, the eyes found him. And turns out the leader of this mission is Nick, who's now a pretty high-ranking commander in the eyes. He's like, hey, June, sorry, I'm gonna do what I can to protect you, but I can't stop this. So June's brought to the serious prison, where she's reunited with Aunt Lydia, who's very mad at her. The other handmaids moved on before they got there, so they're gonna torture June to find out where they are. Finally, though, they bring out the big guns. Yes, it's June's daughter, Hannah. But she was very young when she was taken away, and it's been like 5 years. She barely remembers her mom. She's scared of this creepy lady. This is heartbreaking for June. It basically destroys her, but still, to protect her daughter, she gives up the other handmaids. Before she leaves, though, Nick managed to arrange a rendezvous for them, and she runs up, and these two start smooching. I mean, as a top commander, he was complicit in her torture, but also he still cares about her and wants to protect her. And June knows from their past relationship that he is a good guy. He's just doing what he has to survive in Gilead, just like the rest of them. So, I don't know, it's complicated. So June and the girls are back in red, gonna be handmaids again. But when they stop at a railroad crossing, they seize the opportunity to escape. Come on, run for it. Oh no, too late, hit by a train. June and Janine are the only survivors, but they manage to make their way to the war zone of Chicago, the last front of the resistance. And June's excited to join the rebellion, where now she can fight back directly. Now back in Gilead, Commander Lawrence is like, look, to improve diplomatic relations, we need a ceasefire on the Chicago border to allow humanitarian aid in. Unfortunately, though, right before the ceasefire, they've decided to do one final bombing run. June is shell-shocked but alive, and luckily the humanitarian aid's coming in right now. And in fact, the first one here who finds June is her old best friend, Moira. And so it's finally happening. After 3.5 seasons of torture in Gilead, June has finally made it to Canada. She joins up with the Canada crew, all her friends she helped escape Gilead, including her baby Nicole. And she's reunited with her husband, Luke, who is overjoyed that she's finally free. Janine, unfortunately, was found by Gilead, brought back to be a handmaid. And there's another new handmaid here. It is the young Mrs. Keyes, Esther. Esther's like, no way, I'm not giving in. Things can't get any worse. But Janine's like, yo girl, look at my eye. Things can get much worse. And so for now, Esther's on her best behavior. Blessed be the fruit and all that. And so June enjoys living in a free society again. But being in Gilead all these years has left its mark. She went through so much trauma, it's gonna take time to adjust. At the Gilead support group for women who made it out, Moira's of the thought that, hey, we gotta move past our trauma. But June's kinda like, why should we move past it? We should get angry. And all the other girls are kinda with her. Now remember, also in Canada are the Waterfords, Fred and Serena. But soon Serena gets some very surprising news. She is pregnant. But how is this possible? Serena was thought to be infertile, and Fred was also thought to be infertile. It's a miracle, I guess. Serena still rightfully hates Fred, but now they've got a bigger problem because June Osborne is here to testify against them. So June tells her story to the world, basically doing a full seasons 1 through 3 recap, so Serena decides they need to present a united front. So they make a deal. Fred tells the international community everything they could possibly want to know about the inner workings of Gilead in exchange for immunity. Yes, Commander Waterford's gonna walk free, and as you might imagine, June is not happy. June goes to the American FBI agent Tuella like, hey, I've got a better offer for you. She set up a meeting with Commander Lawrence, and now that Fred's talking, they really want him back before he can spill more Gilead secrets. They're willing to trade for him 22 prisoners, women that were in the resistance. And Tuella's got to admit, saving all of them is worth more than Fred's intel. And so just as Commander Waterford thinks he's free, it's like, sorry man, change of plans. They take him back to Gilead, where he's certainly gonna be put to death. Nick brings him out into the woods, but he's not killing him, cause June Osborne is here in person. And she's not alone. She brought all the women of the support group with her. And yes, Commander Waterford running for his life. June and the girls beat him to death. She tears him apart with her bare bare hands, finally gets her vengeance. So in season 5, June and these girls head to a diner for the best damn breakfast of her life. At first, Luke was a bit concerned that June could be so violent, but he quickly understands June's been through hell and Luke fully supports her. And as these two spend some time together, they rekindle their romance and fall back in love. Serena is devastated by Fred's death. They had their rough spots, but for many years were truly in love. And June wants Serena to know it was her. In fact, she sends her Fred's finger. And so Serena strikes back. She's allowed back to Gilead for her husband's funeral, which they make a big televised event. And she picks a kid to take center stage. Yes, it's June's daughter, Hannah. She's rubbing it in that her daughter's still here, and the June-Serena war is fully on. Now, Serena has a big decision to make. Agent Tuello wants her to reclaim her American citizenship and live as a refugee here in Canada. And these two have been spending a lot of time together, and it's always been kind of flirty. But after everything, Serena still believes she has a better future with Gilead. In fact, they give her a job here in Canada, put her in charge of the new Gilead Information Center. But they really only want her as the poster girl. As a woman who thought she was infertile but got pregnant because of Gilead, she's a great symbol. Now, June and Luke meet with a group who live on the border of no man's land. Having seen their daughter Hannah, they're now remotivated to do whatever it takes to rescue her. Unfortunately, on the way out, this kid steps on a landmine, which causes a big commotion, and June and Luke are captured. Having never been a Gilead citizen, Luke is sent back to Canada, but for June it seems this is it. She's going back to Gilead. But luckily, June has caused enough trouble. She's pulled off the bus. They're gonna kill her right here. And Serena has convinced them to let her kill June personally. So it looks like this is the end for June, but Serena shoots the security guy instead. Serena had been staying with some Gilead supporters here in Canada, the Wheelers. But soon she realized the security here for her protection was actually keeping her a prisoner. And Mrs. Wheeler starts treating Serena like a handmaid. She's fully planning to steal her baby. So Serena made this big move to escape, but she's going into labor right now. So June helps her deliver it, and congrats Serena, a beautiful baby boy. But back at the hospital in Canada, without any sort of legal status, Serena's baby is taken away, and the Wheelers are made its guardian. Serena pleads with June for help. They're stealing my baby and treating me like a handmaid. But June's like, yeah, no, that's absolutely what you deserve. But they still have to show off Serena in public, and as soon as she gets a chance, Serena makes a break for it. Meanwhile, back in Gilead, Esther has finished her handmaid training. It's time for her first posting. Commander Putnam kicks everyone out for a private interview, and by this point in the series, they don't have to show us what happens because we know. Esther, the expert poisoner, tries to poison herself and Janine, but not enough, they both survive. Now, over the years, Aunt Lydia has taken a liking to Janine as her special project that she's helped to be an obedient handmaid. So she makes a promise, if God lets Janine recover, she'll treat the handmaids better, and she actually does, a little bit. Esther recovers too, and turns out she's pregnant, and Lydia's not okay with this. The commanders are only supposed to have sex with them during the God-approved ceremony, and Esther tries to get through to her that there's no difference. So Putnam technically broke the law, but laws don't apply to commanders. But Commander Putnam finds out commanders are only above the law as long as you don't have other commanders looking for an excuse to take you down. And this is the first step of Commander Lawrence's big plan to make Gilead a better place. He and Nick have been working hard to rise the ranks in Gilead, and after killing Commander Putnam, they have more power than ever. His big project is New Bethlehem, a section of Gilead that would be strategically liberalized, and he wants June to come live there. And he could arrange it for her to live next door to her daughter, Hannah. But June's like, yo, Gilead is rotten to the core. You can't fix it, you gotta tear it down. And if you can't see that, I guess we're done. But Commander Lawrence disagrees. He's committed to climbing the ranks even higher. But a top commander needs a wife, and so he marries the widow Putnam, whose husband he just had killed. He also needs a handmaid, and it's a great opportunity for Janine. She was the Putnam's previous handmaid, and their kid is Janine's kid, so she would get to be with them. And so they're set up to be a relatively happy Gilead family. But the commander, who is Hannah's father, is sick of June causing trouble, wants to have her assassinated. Meanwhile, up in Canada, things are starting to get pretty bad as the mobs are riled up by anti-immigrant hate. And today, one of these guys hits June with his truck. Luckily, Luke fights this guy off before he can finish her. So now Nick confronts Commander Lawrence. Hey, was this us? And he's like, well, it wasn't not us. Earlier, Agent Tuello had arranged for June to meet with Nick, hoping to turn him into an inside man to help take Gilead down. Nick, of course, would love to help, but it's too dangerous now, because as a rising commander, he has a wife now too, and she is pregnant. So Nick and June say goodbye. They admit they'll always love each other, but for now, they gotta do what's best for their families. But now that Gilead's trying to have June killed, Nick is in all the way. But Nick immediately blows his cover by publicly punching Commander Lawrence, and now his wife's mad that he still loves June, and she's a daughter of another top commander, so Nick is in trouble. When Janine learns June was almost killed, she resolves to start fighting again. She drops the act of an obedient handmaid and tells this woman off pretty hard, so the eyes come for her, and Janine is in big trouble. Now June realizes Canada is not safe anymore. They gotta leave right now. But turns out it's already too late. The airports are locked down. Agent Tuello's able to get them on the last train of American refugees heading out. All these Americans fled to Canada to escape Gilead, but it seems Gilead followed them here. But there's a huge problem. The guy that tried to kill June died from Luke beating him up, and now he's wanted by the police. So he sends June on ahead. If they're together, she'll be arrested too. And it is a tearful farewell, as this could be goodbye forever. So June is alone with baby Nicole, headed for the West Coast, and theoretically a boat to the last American territory, Hawaii. But there's another single mother that Tuello helped get on this train. Yes, it is Serena. And so as much as they hate each other, for the moment it seems, she and June will have to be allies. How will the show come to an end? Find out in the final season of The Handmaid's Tale. If you liked this recap, hit that subscribe button for more of the best recaps of TV and movies.